What is going on, guys, and welcome to CSS tutorial. In this video we're going to talk how we can work with a position property, and more specifically how we can work with values absolute and relative. So let's go ahead and we're going to create a div over here, and I'm going to say that the ID for this div is going to be a relative, and I'm just going to close it out. And within that div I'm actually going to place another div, and I'm going to say that this ID has a name of absolute. Over here like this, absolute. And I'm just going to close it out. And now it's time for styling. So again, I go over here, I click on quick edit, and I create a new rule. And first I'm going to say that width of this div is going to be, let's say, 100%. So it's going to be spanning all across. And the height of this div is, let's say, going to be like, I don't know, 300 pixels. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a border all around, and I'm going to say that it's going to be 3 pixels solid, let's say black, over here like this. So this is my, let's say, imagine that this is very over exaggerated banner, right? So we go over here and we're going to actually work with this div that's located inside that div. So I'm going to say quick edit, and I'm going to say the new rule. And I'm going to say again that this div is going to be like, let's say, width is going to be like 200 over here pixels, and the height is going to be 200 pixels. And I'm going to say that a border for this div is going to be, let's say, 3 pixels solid, let's say red, right? So now you can see that it's nothing major what I did over here. I just created basically 2 divs. But now I want to show you how we can actually change the location of this div within, and how we can actually, you'll be able to see how we can locate it from one part to another part without leaving this div. So I'm going to just make this smaller. And the first thing that I would need to do is I would need to actually set this property, or for this big div, for the one that has a black border, I would need to have position. And position should be relative over here like this. And now if I go over here and if I set this position to absolute over here like this, sorry, if I just need to write position first, not the absolute. So I write position and then I say absolute, and I go down, and now I need to start telling the browser where it should be located, right? So let's say over here that I say that I would want a bottom over here to be 0, right? So now I can see right away how it moved. However, you can see that it didn't leave the div. It actually stayed within the div. If you remember, when we were actually dealing with a normal absolute positioning, it actually would have went all the way down. So let me show you what would have happened if I wouldn't have here position relative. So you can see what happens. Right away this div leaves, because by the rule, when we are setting position absolute, it actually ignores all the other elements, and it's actually just using this our web page as our, let's say, starting place. So if we're saying that we're going to be 0 from the bottom, it actually thinks, okay, so you want 0 from the web page, right? So it ignores all the other elements. However, if we set this div that actually contains this second div, this red div that was absolute, if we set this div position to relative over here, you can see that it actually holds this div over here. So now I can move it however I would want, right? So what I can do over here is I can just say that, let's say that I'm going to make it like a little bit smaller. I'm going to make it 50 by 50 over here. And now I can just start moving it however I would want. So let's say I'm just going to say that I want it from the top, right? I want top 0, and I want, let's say, from the left, let's say that I would want, like, I don't know, like 50 pixels over here. So you can see that how I can start moving pretty much this div all around, and I could actually add some, I don't know, my favorite background colors. Let's say I'm just gonna add something like this. So I can see that now how this div actually contains this little small square, and I can start just moving it pretty much all around how I want. So you can imagine that if I would have made some type of banner, I can just start inserting my elements, and basically if I set this position to relative over here for the first one, and if I use the absolute for the ones that are going to be placed within inside, they're not going to leave this div. They're not going to be somewhere here on the corners. They're actually going to be contained, and I can do a lot of things with that. This is going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next video.